the UK's most haunted places. With its long, bloodthirsty history and dreary dark weather, it's no wonder that the UK hosts an enormous number of spooky sites. Here's our selection of some of the most haunted. Welcome back to another episode of Epiz Scary, bringing you the best spooky content on the internet. If you love unsolved mysteries, freaky videos, ghosts, and the paranormal as much as we do, then this is the place for you. Subscribe to the channel now, so you never miss any of our fantastically freaky uploads as soon as they're available. Let's get into today's episode. Pendle Hill, Lancashire. Double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Since the notorious 1612 trails, the good people of East Lancashire have remained utterly cautious of the dreaded witches of Pendle Hill. 10 alleged witches were buried beneath the hill, having been hung at Lancaster Castle. The hill has since featured on multiple television shows, including a live broadcast from the most haunted crew. The spirits of 10 witches in total, all out for revenge, having been unjustly put to death by the terrified townsfolk of their time. Most famous among them is Alice Nutter, who was wealthier than her supernatural contemporaries and chilled everyone with her silence during the trial. She was found guilty of the charge of murdering Henry Midden by witchcraft. Pendle Hill looms large and portentous above the Lancashire countryside. Creepy feelings aside, it's a lovely place for a hike, and its summit boasts an astounding view. Tower of London. We've all heard of the Tower of London. It's most famous for harboring the crown jewels, and housing prisoners for their final days, before being trotted out to face public execution, so it's little wonder why it's thought to be haunted. Historical inmates include Thomas Cromwell, Sir Walter Raleigh, Guy Fawkes, the Cato Street conspirators and the Cray twins. There are a number of spirits apparently wandering the halls of the Tower of London. But the most famous is that of Anne Boleyn, estranged wife to Henry VIII, who met her end on the block. She's often seen walking around the various rooms after closing time, with her severed head tucked under her arm. Others have spotted her staring through the window of the room in which she was imprisoned. The Tower of London is one of the English capital's most hotly attended attractions. It's well worth a visit for a chance at spotting Anne's ghostly reflection in the world's biggest diamond. Ancient Ram Inn, Wadden-under-Edge, Gloucestershire. The ancient Ram Inn, built way back in the 12th century, is one of the most famous haunted sites in the UK. It pretty much ticks all the boxes on the spooky checklist. Not only was it built on an ancient pagan burial ground, but it also boasts over 20 regular specters. It's now the UK epicenter of the ghost hunting world, with supernaturalists descending on the ground year in year out. Amongst the many ghosts that patrol the rooms of the ancient Ram Inn and its creepy basement is a lost little girl, allegedly killed by her mother, a rogue priestess, who can be heard wailing deep into the night, and, perhaps worst of all, a very randy male sex spirit called an incubus, renowned for pushing unsuspecting guests onto the bed. No longer a pub, the ancient Ram Inn hosts events, paranormal investigations, and open days. Check the website for the details. Barry Pomeroy Castle, Devon. The Tudor-era castle of Barry Pomeroy, built all the way back in 1547, towers over the Devonshire countryside and is known to many as the most haunted castle in the UK. Seeing as there are over 1,500 castles across the country, each with its own resident specters, this place must be pretty haunted, right? Let's just say, if you're driving past on a moonlit night, and you see the figure of a lady in one of the windows, keep on driving. There are two known ghostly tenants of Barry Pomeroy, the Blue Lady, and the White Lady, both with their own tragic stories. According to locals, the Blue Lady is said to have been the daughter of a Norman lord, who killed her child, having conceived it with her father. Apparently, the Blue Lady appears in the window of the highest tower, beckoning to passers-by, luring them inside. Anyone foolish enough to go to the Blue Lady is said to fall to their death. The White Lady, often confused with her blue counterpart, haunts the dungeons of the castle, after being imprisoned there via the spite of a jealous sister. Barry Pomeroy Castle is now a Grade II listed building, an English heritage site owned by the Duke of Somerset. It is possible to visit Barry Pomeroy Castle, and also to rent it out for weddings, gatherings and photoshoots. Plasmar, Conwy, Wales. Plasmar, in Conwy, North Wales, is the epitome of an Elizabethan townhouse. Plasmar translates to Great Hall, which is fitting as the grandeur within the building is revered all over Wales. It was built in 1585 by a man named Robert Wynne, one of the members of the Welsh landed gentry, having cost him £800, that's the equivalent of 16,000 days' wages. There's a whole sitcom's worth of ghosts present in Plasmar. Over the years, staff working at the 𝐥𝐤𝐤, Welsh Heritage, site have reportedly seen, among others, a little girl clad in a white bonnet who haunts the parlor room, a man and a boy in one of the bedrooms of the house, Dr. Dick, a young doctor who, having failed to revive Robert Wynne's wife and son, fled into the darkness of the chimney system to escape, and, most strangely, mysterious mummified cats found under the floorboards during a routine restoration. Plasmar is a well-loved tourist attraction, open to the public all year round. Having been meticulously preserved, a visit to Plasmar is like stepping back in time. Blickling Hall, Norfolk. This enormous Norfolk estate was home to the Boleyn family and haunted by a prominent paternal member, we'll get to that later. Blickling Hall stately home, part of the infamous Blickling estate, has lorded over the surrounding fields since the 15th century when it was built by Sir John Fastolf of Caister, who managed to accrue a fortune during the 100 Years' War. 500 years later, during World War II, it was requisitioned by the RAF, used as an officers' mess and training ground for soldiers. Having lost his two daughters to the rapacious requirements of King Henry VIII, and Boleyn's father, Sir Thomas Boleyn, wanders the estate grounds at dawn, attempting to cross each of the grounds before the cockerel cries. There's also the equally famous ghost of Sir John Falstaff, who served as the historical inspiration for Shakespeare's famous tragicomic character Falstaff. Blickling Hall now serves as a Grade II listed National Trust house. Its gigantic library, its garden, and its 500 acres of woodland provide visitors from all over with something to marvel at. Dunster Castle, Somerset. The Motte and Bailey style Dunster Castle, above the village of Dunster, Somerset, is one of the more imposing of haunted castles in the UK. The castle sits above a very steep hill called Tor, and the fortification dates back to the Anglo-Saxon period, almost 1,000 years ago. It played a large part in the English Civil War when it was besieged by the Roundheads, and Parliament ordered it to be partially demolished to prevent future use. It was then restored in the Victorian period, adhering to the Gothic style that was fashionable at the time. So, first, there's the decidedly spooky stockroom that staff have been complaining about for years. According to various reports, there's a tangibly menacing, and uncomfortable mood there at all times. The stock will fall off shelves without obvious reason and a mysterious man in green appears before disappearing without a trace. Then there's the Blue Kitchen, where a shaken staff member reported the appearance of a disembodied foot in front of him. Little remains today of the original design of the house, other than the 13th century gate, and the vast collection of leather tapestries, showing scenes from Antony and Cleopatra. Dunster Castle also houses a piano, once owned by the famous composer Vivian Ellis. Springhill House, Northern Ireland. Springhill House is a 17th century listed building in the townland of Balindrum near Moneymore, Northern Ireland. Though it has remained the property of the National Trust since the 1950s, Springhill House has been in the possession of the Cunningham family for hundreds of years. The many heirs of the family and masters of the household have fought in a number of different wars before the house eventually began to decline during the early 20th century. Olivia Lennox Cunningham was the bearer of a sad story. Her husband, George Lennox Cunningham, killed himself and Olivia had to bring up the children all by herself, tormented by the fact that she could never save her beloved husband from his demons. As far as ghosts go, however, Olivia is fairly benign. She only appears by day and shows genuine concern for children, who she prefers to appear to. Springhill is considered a vitally important bit of Ulster history, having preserved the legacy of the Cunningham family's 300-year residence. The estate is open to the public most days and boasts one of the largest surviving 18th century wallpaper schemes in the United Kingdom. Ham House, Richmond upon Thames. Ham House, in Richmond, on the outskirts of the British capital, was built during 17th century and was home to James I, Prince of Wales, and since his death, has been handed down through a long line of earls and duchesses until it eventually fell into public hands. The estate suffered damage during the Blitz bomber campaigns of the Second World War, as an important aircraft factory was located nearby. Remember how we said that Ham House was handed down through a long line of duchesses? Well, one of them's still there. Elizabeth Murray, Duchess of Lauderdale, to be precise. Elizabeth was a ruthless, Machiavellian character, who allied herself with both Charles II and Oliver Cromwell during the English Civil War, allegedly poisoned one of her husbands on her way up the social ladder, and consistently took family members to court for crossing her. In the end, it all caught up with Elizabeth, and, having come upon financial problems, she confined herself in a single ground floor apartment until her death. With being open to the public for tours and nocturnal ghost hunting sessions, Ham House is also used in film and television. Used as Kensington Palace in the 2009 film, The Young Victoria, and as Hailsham boarding school in Never Let Me Go, Treasurer's House, York. Though one of the walls is all that remains of the original construction, Treasurer's House, just north of York's Minster, was first established way back in the 1090s, for the Minster's first treasurer. It survived mostly untouched until the Reformation, when the position of treasurer to the Minster was brought to an end. In 1897, a wealthy industrialist took it upon himself to restore the house, a project that was finished in 1900. There's also a number of ancient Roman ruins uncovered in and around the house. Turns out columns and roads aren't the only Roman remnants of Treasurer's House, it also plays host to the spirits of a small group of Roman soldiers. According to the account, those who witness the soldiers are first greeted with a slow crescendoing chorus of trumpet blasts, before a group of soldiers led by an officer in a plumed hat and riding a cart horse, emerge from one of the walls. Treasurer's House is open to the public. People come from all over Yorkshire to look at the house's garden, and Frank Green, a wealthy industrialist's collection of objects brought from around the world. That brings us to the end of this video all about the UK's most haunted places. The UK has some super creepy haunted locations. Which one do you think is the creepiest? Get involved, and let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a thumbs up. Plus, if you want to see more awesome scary content just like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as we upload a new video. As always, thanks for stopping by. See you again soon, in the next one.